So here we go. Conspiracy time. Do nuclear bombs exist? Let's go ahead and jump into this guy. Not literally into a mushroom cloud, but let's go ahead and jump into this thing. So, there's a lot of mysteries that we have about nukes and nuclear power in general. So I in a way, I sympathize with this conspiracy theory. I get where they're coming from. These are the main components. These are real, because I had to do a ton of reading on this stuff. These are pretty much the main arguments. I'm just going to bullet point them for you right now. 1, nuclear bombs don't exist. 2, nuclear bombs can't exist. The level of power they put out is not possible, is kind of the argument. You just can't have these type of bombs. So basically their argument is that, yes, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were attacked, but it wasn't one plane dropping one bomb on Hiroshima and then a plane dropping a bomb on Nagasaki. It was firebombing. The whole city was firebombed. Now, despite the fact that that would require an entire fleet of planes flying over Japan and dropping firebombs, that's what they think happened twice, and Japan never shot them down. They're saying that the people who survived Hiroshima and Nagasaki are like, yeah, I was just sitting there and I was just like eating tofu or whatever, and all of a sudden I felt an intense wave of heat hit my back and I got all these horrible burns. And they go, that happens during a firebombing. So it was a firebombing. They didn't suffer, no one's reporting that they suffered the effects of a nuclear blast. They're reporting they suffered the effects of heat. But that's their argument, that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were firebombed. There is a claim, one of the claims they use to show that nukes don't exist is that ICBMs don't exist. There's the claim that there's no unedited footage that exists of an ICBM leaving one continent and hitting another. I don't even know of any edited footage of an ICBM leaving one continent and hitting another. I'm sure they've tested them in some way. I always thought they landed in the ocean. I don't think even an ally would want America going, hey, we're going to test this ICBM. We're going to shoot it at you and let us know where it lands. It doesn't have a warhead on it, we promise Britain. They're saying that all of the footage you've seen of nukes, of explosions, are either edited with Hollywood special effects, and of course you can go on YouTube and watch video after video of they're like, look at the clouds don't move and here, and then look at this shockwave, and they'll say, look at we're showing the footage of the explosion, and then we're showing the people just standing here looking at it, and then we cut back to the explosion, and that cut there is so they could edit the footage. One thing to remember is that the footage that we see as civilians is not the footage that the military sees. They don't watch the edited version of them cutting back to themselves. They have two views. They have a camera of just them, and then they have footage of just the nuclear bomb. So that's not really, we may be getting the edited footage, but the unedited footage of the nuclear blast exists. Other people say, oh, no, the blasts were real. It wasn't edited. It was just big explosions. One of the points of proof that nuclear bombs don't exist is they've never been used against the United States. Therefore, they don't exist. That was a weird argument. Yeah, because then that would lead to a nuclear war. We used them first, and then basically that was it, as of now. So if they were used against us, then we, most likely wouldn't be here. There would just be possibly a short exchange of nuclear bombs, but it'd probably get out of hand pretty quickly. This one I loved. I'm going to quote this verbatim. The idea that mushroom clouds are unique to nuclear blasts is also a complete myth. That is true. That any big explosion can cause a mushroom cloud. But let me go back to this. In fact, you can create a mushroom cloud explosion in your backyard with common materials. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't try to prove that nuclear bombs don't exist by creating an explosion large enough to create a mushroom cloud in your backyard. That might be one of the most irresponsible things I've seen, just as an aside, on a conspiracy theory in a long time. That would be the equivalent of, you don't believe in quantum suicide? Put a gun in your head, pull the trigger, watch, you'll live. Do not build a bomb in your backyard. That's really bad. So the question obviously is this. They're saying the nuclear bombs don't exist, and that all the footage is either faked or it's just conventional explosions, and Nagasaki and Hiroshima were firebombed. At least they admit Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened. But Then the question comes to, just like with Flat Earth or any of these conspiracies, why? Why have they been faking this? The conspiracy theory behind why they're faking this was that they wanted people to live in fear, and they wanted to divert billions and trillions of dollars into these government projects and just, like, I don't know, take it home with them. So, and, I get the whole thing about the government just wanting to create an era of fear. But, the thing with this conspiracy theory is that the thing is that conspiracy theories work best when they're very, very contained to a certain group of people or a certain geographical area. So you can say that the Bilderberg is this group that we're not allowed access into, and they make all the decisions for the world. They make all the, what's going to happen politically and socially in the world for the next year. What are their aims and goals? That is centered on a group of people that meet in a area at any given time. And they're all basically very secret. And that is a real group. That's not the conspiracy theory isn't that they exist. The conspiracy theory is how much control they have over the general population. So, the amount of people that it would take to cover this conspiracy theory up is mind-boggling. At least the fake moon landing, they can say, you could have really just had a core group of people know that it was fake, and all the telemetry that was coming in on the computers in the NASA offices were faked. You had a core group that said, we know you're not really going to the moon, the 3 astronauts, a couple other people who were in on it. Everyone else working at NASA was getting fake data, and they thought it was real. That's a limited conspiracy theory. The amount of people you would need to pull off the fact that the Earth was actually flat is phenomenally large. Moon landing, you can do it small. You can have that be a small conspiracy. This thing, again, is just too big. There's hundreds of countries. America and Russia aren't the only countries with nukes. Why wouldn't Iran just say, nukes don't exist, we don't need them because they don't exist, and we're not going to tank our economy trying to get them because they don't exist? And people would be like, well, of course they exist. Look at this footage. And then they're like, no, this footage is fake. I just, the amount of cover-up that would be needed for this. And really, again, their main evidence is it's impossible for them to exist, which is not true. And the footage is faked. Now, again, at what point do you start to accept footage as being real? I think there has to be some sort of standard that is set where we go, this is real footage, and this is fake footage. I don't know what that standard is. But I think there's probably this weird overlay where someone could look at nuclear bomb footage and go, no, that's fake, look at the edits, and then see footage of Bigfoot walking through the forest and go, oh, that's real, that's proof of Bigfoot. It's mind-boggling. But again, I do get the idea that I think if I agree more with the argument, I believe nukes exist, but I believe more with the argument that the technology to make a nuclear bomb doesn't actually exist, and all of the footage we've seen of nuclear blasts are simply conventional explosions to a huge degree. It's a ton of dynamite. Versus, the footage is fake, you can't believe it, fake news. One of them is a very lazy excuse, just being like, that footage is fake, and the other one is them saying, no, that's an actual real explosion, I just don't know what caused that explosion. That's a more viable path for nukes are fake. There's tons of resources on this, by the way. I had a hard time parsing down the information that I was going to talk about. This is, again, another growing conspiracy theory. Nuclear bombs don't exist. And on the face of it, it sounds completely foolish, but people really believe it. I would love to make a massive diagram to see people who believe in certain conspiracy theories and then also believe in adjoining conspiracy theories. Does this have a lot of crossover with the moon landing was fake, or does it have more crossover with flat Earth? Because I'm sure there's those loops. I think people who believe in ghosts and the supernatural, the weirdo stuff, they're farther away from this. They'll be like, oh, I believe in ghosts, and I believe in demons, and I believe all sorts of crazy stuff. Red lights moving through the darkness and stuff like that. That's, to me, is far more plausible than someone telling me nuclear bombs don't exist. I think it is much easier and actually much less mentally stressful for me, and I think for a lot of people, someone says ghosts don't exist, and I go, well, I think that they do. So you're saying something doesn't exist, and I think that it does exist, versus something existing and me saying that doesn't exist. That's a totally different mind trick. One of them is saying, I have a bicycle at home, and they're like, no, Jason, you don't have a bicycle at home. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have a bicycle at home. versus I'm looking at my bike and I go, I don't have a bicycle. I think that's the difference between the two. And it's really, really odd that looking at a bicycle and saying, I don't have a bike, is becoming more and more common with conspiracy theories. Stuff like the Illuminati is, I've never seen proof of it, but I'm pretty sure it exists. Or I've seen limited proof of it, and I'm pretty sure that exists. You know, so we have stuff like the Illuminati and MK Ultra and Bohemian Grove and things like that where we go, I see enough evidence to make me think this is real. And then we have the conspiracy theories that there is evidence it is real and people going, I don't believe in that. I flat out don't believe that. And it's weird. And I wonder if we're going to see a rift in the conspiracy theory community over this. I don't think people who are researching like these more grounded conspiracy theories, like is MK Ultra still operating, want to associate with people who are flat earthers. I think even people who are 9/11 truthers don't want to associate with people who say nuclear bombs never existed, because it completely just, people can sit down and listen to you and be like, oh yeah, molten steel at the bottom, jet fuel can't melt steel beams, and there was hidden explosives and stuff like that. And then someone walk and sit next to that guy and say, yeah, did you also know nuclear bombs don't exist? All the footage you've seen is fake. You'd be like, what? I'm trying to convince this guy about physics, how buildings fall, and you're saying that nuclear bombs don't exist. So I think we are going to see a rift in the conspiracy theory community. And honestly, if the more grounded, and I'm using that term very, very lightly, I think 9/11 truther movement is, like I've said before, I researched that for a near decade. And I came around, I used to be a truther, and then I realized that it was just nonsense. But if I was still a 9/11 truther, I would want nothing to do with the flat earthers and nothing to do with the no nuke people and all of this stuff. World War II didn't happen. I don't want anything to do with them. I want to talk about physics, and I want to talk about geopolitical realities. I don't want to talk about the idea that you're looking at something that clearly happened and saying that it's totally false. So I think we're going to see that rift there. Well, that was our Monday episode. I had a lot of fun recording that, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun listening to it. We got some good stuff this week. I think we got a lot of good stuff this week. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.